Welcome to this week's episode of the Therapy Business Club podcast. I'm your host, Euan, and I'm part of a group of therapists, an online community called the Therapy Business Club, where we help therapists, whether new or somewhat established in their therapy practice, to market, to better find their clients, some of the tech tools that are needed these days, how to use social media, a load of stuff like this, which really helps therapists who perhaps haven't had experience with that get online and engaging their ideal client. You can find out more about the Therapy Business Club at therapybusinessclub.com. Simple as that. Right, without further ado, this is episode 12 of the Therapy Business Club podcast, and a very special guest today who is in fact one of our members at the Therapy Business Club, and that is Kerry Madgwick. Welcome to today's podcast, Kerry.
Hi, Euan. Thanks very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for being had.
We always say, thanks for being seen. It's good to be seen.
I mean that in the nicest possible way,
Yes.
Of course. Now, just for the record, Kerry is a clinical nutritionist, a clinical hypnotherapist, a trauma release specialist. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it sounds very exciting. So we'll ask about that. Mindset coach, speaker, and author, covering a lot of wonderful areas there. The physical side, the mental, the emotional stuff. Excellent, Kerry. Again, thank you for being with us on this podcast. On these podcasts, we have therapists who talk about what they're doing, why they're doing, why that's making a difference in people's lives. And we also touch on some of the business aspects because this is one thing that Kev, who is the co-founder with me on the Therapy Business Club, discovers that people have a wonderful heart of compassion to help, trained, have all the skills, but actually, how do I then go out and find clients so I can, spend my love in the world? It's quite difficult, actually.
And I think it is one of the challenging things, which is, thank goodness for the Therapy Business Club, because everyone's aware whenever you do any training, you do your training and they teach you to do your thing, but no one teaches you to go out and do marketing. I think when I trained as a personal trainer, and my marketing section was draw up a leaflet and go and drop it round to every door in your village. And that was kind of the market, that was your marketing plan, and that was it, which, yes, may have worked a number of years ago, but it's not something that really works that well now. And there are other ways, and it is exploring those different ways, which you and Kev are, really good at highlighting and leading the way. And I think it's things that work as well, because I think we have a challenge with social media. There's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of people who are saying things that they're not always authentic, shall we say. That's probably the best way of putting it. So I think that's the thing, is you and Kev are doing things, and you're doing things with the Therapy Business Club, which is growing the Therapy Business Club. So the things that you are doing work. So if you follow the system, it works. So that's
Absolutely.
really helpful.
What doesn't work is discarded. I don't have time to
Yes.
waste on time. Yeah, so I couldn't have given myself a better introduction. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kerry. So let's just, what is your main activity, would you say, Kerry? Where's your positioning in the sort of the therapy health market?
So in terms of, do you mean the nutrition or
Practice.
hypnotherapy?
Yeah, I mean, overall, what are you spending your time on these days?
So mainly focused, so it's kind of split between the nutrition and hypnotherapy. So I started off, obviously, as a personal trainer, did one of those courses where they went, oh, you need everything. So you have to be a personal trainer, and you have to be a aerobics instructor, and you have to do Pilates, and you have to do nutrition. And I really wanted the Pilates and the nutrition, but got kind of drawn into everything else. And doing the nutrition, I then came to realize that most of my clients kind of knew what they needed to do. It was actually doing it. It was the procrastination. It was sometimes the overwhelm of not knowing what to do. And that kind of led me down the route of then meditation and mindfulness and into hypnotherapy. And I used to see my clients for nutrition and give them an option of hypnotherapy. Now they don't get the option. They get everything as one package. So sometimes they come for hypnotherapy, they end up getting the nutrition that they didn't realize they needed, or they come for nutrition and they get the hypnotherapy that they didn't realize they needed. So it's kind of a all-in-one package that they get.
I like that. So yeah, I mean, hypnotherapy, which I'm a hypnotherapist, it's not to me, it's not the band-aid for everything. It's a tool in the box, isn't it? And some
Yes,
people are more
absolutely.
suited to that approach rather than perhaps a sort of a mindset approach to deal with a confidence issue. It's whatever works gives the result, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and that's what we kind of talk about is when we say holistic, is it isn't one size fits all. You can't just change your diet. You can't just start exercising. You can't just have hypnotherapy. Yes, it works and it covers a lot of things, but if you are struggling with your diet and your energy, yes, having hypnotherapy will help. But if you start doing a bit of exercise and change the way you eat, it's going to have a massive impact. So I think all of those things, interlock really well. And that's what we say. It isn't just this is the one aspect.
Yeah.
You have to address, if you're struggling, I believe you have to address all aspects of your lifestyle. It's not just one or the other. And I think, we've kind of spoken about it. And I think that's where Western medicine kind of goes wrong. It's like, oh, well, you've got to take a pill, instead of, well, actually, are you drinking enough water?
Yeah.
Where's this coming from? Are you sat in front of a computer screen
Mm,
7 hours of a day and not moving?
yeah.
So that's kind of why I incorporate,
Yeah.
everything into kind of one package.
Good. Western medicine. We'll be talking about that in a minute, I feel.
Shall we?
Would you say that you got into this, Kerry, because perhaps you were on the receiving end, perhaps of hypnotherapy, um, and saw the benefits of nutrition and coaching, and therefore, I like this. This has really helped me. I'd like to do this. I think a lot of people get into it that way. For me, hypnotherapy, I had hypnotherapy for a number of things, and it was very successful. And I thought I'd
Okay.
love to do this because it's a great way to help people. Did that happen for you that way?
No, so I guess my route into hypnotherapy was a little bit different, possibly to most people. So I had my own health issues. I was told I had an incurable illness. I was told I had to be on medication for the rest
Wow.
of my life.
Wow.
And I had a very good friend who was a pharmacist, and I spoke to her, and she said to me, if I were you, I wouldn't take this medication. So I was like, okay, this is coming from someone who knows what they're talking about.
Who
It's
actually
not.
dispenses the medication?
Yes, and it's
Crikey.
not just me, I tend to do things differently to everyone else, but it wasn't just me being different. It was, and so I did some more research and I thought actually the side effects are not worth the medication.
Mm.
So that led me down to the internet wasn't available then. I come from Zimbabwe originally, so the internet's still not that widely available there. So there was no way of kind of doing that research. So I saw a couple of doctors. I ended up seeing a herbalist. I saw all
Mm.
sorts of people and realized that actually I had to take that responsibility for myself and figure out what worked for me. And then I found he was a professor, I think I want to say a university in York, who had written a book about the root cause being gut health. And that kind of really resonated with me because he was talking about dealing with kind of the root cause. And we all know that, if your plants are not doing well in your garden, you fix the soil, you don't chop the tree down. The same if you have a swimming pool, you don't just drain all the water out, you deal with what's happening with the water. And
Mm.
that kind of resonated with me and that made sense. And I thought, well, if I can address that and start to change my diet and then became aware of kind of the challenges and issues we face with our diet and stress and all of those kind of things. So I got into it from the nutrition side specifically. And then I was I kind of first specialized in IBS.
Mm.
And at that point, IBS, hypnotherapy was the only modality that the NHS would refer for IBS was hypnotherapy.
Wow.
So I met a hypnotherapist who I wanted to collaborate with. So I went for a hypnotherapy session and it was, he did kind of parts work and idiomotor responses. And that was just, I was like, I was a bit unsure about hypnosis. I think most of us are. We see hypnosis on TV and stage shows, and you're just like, yeah, and I don't see how
Yeah.
that works with helping
Yeah.
people with IBS. So that was a really amazing experience. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I went down the route of mindfulness and meditation. actually went to a nutrition seminar, and the guy who was presenting started talking about energy healing and chakras. And I was just like, I did not sign up for this. It's very science on the science side. It's like
Yeah.
I came here for a nutrition workshop. This is not what I was expecting. But it was in the middle of nowhere. My husband had dropped me off on his way to work, and I had nowhere else to go. So I was like, oh, wow, I'll just sit here and listen. And maybe I should have a bit more of an open mind. And then kind of understood, I guess, energy and how energy impacts us, not just from a nutrition point of
Mm.
view, from our food, the food we take, the energy that comes in with our food. And that just kind of opened my mind to other kind of modalities. And it was only when that I really got involved with hypnotherapy as my dad passed away. And all of the tools I had worked, the meditation, the mindfulness, but there was just something there that I was struggling with.
Mm.
And we were away on holiday, and I don't, these things happen, as they say, when you're ready, the teacher will appear. And it was actually a hypnotherapy school in the States, and they were offering a very short kind of free introductory course. And I started that. And then my poor husband, who's always my guinea pig when it comes to these things, I started doing like some hypnosis on him. I was like, oh, this is amazing. This really works, So got into it from there. And then I thought, actually, for all sorts of things, hypnotherapy is just amazing, isn't it? As,
Mm.
performance, dealing with stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's what most of my clients were coming for. At the root of it was stress, overwhelm, anxiety. We all know what's kind
Yeah.
of going on in the world today. So it just seemed a seamless kind of fit into what I was already
Wonderful.
doing.
Wonderful. You've got a lot of a broad experience there, haven't you? Some people just stay within hypnotherapy or perhaps Reiki and they don't really examine all the other stuff. But it seems that you were quite profoundly moved by some of these other modalities and saw the benefit of all that stuff, Kerry. So you're kind of a multidisciplinary practitioner, we could say.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was mainly about how is the best way I can help my clients. So coming from the nutrition side, and I know this is probably not the best business model to have because we always talk about repeat clients, but coming from that side, I saw these weight loss clubs. And my philosophy when I started my business was I do not want my clients coming back to me week in, week out, week in, week out with the same problems recurring, recurring,
Yeah.
recurring.
Yeah.
I want them to come and go away with the tools that they can make the lifestyle changes and they can get the results that they want. So I guess my exploration always is what can I do that I can help my clients that they can have the tools that they can take away and
Uh,
have those lifestyle changes, and also the simple tools that they could also pass on to members of their family, because we all know, when we create a ripple effect, if one person in the family becomes healthier, everyone else becomes healthier, then it's a knock-on effect on their
mm,
friends. And to me, I think our health is the most important thing. Our bodies are the most important thing we own. Our health is so vitally important because
yeah.
without that, you don't have anything else. You don't have the capacity for anything
Yeah.
else.
Very well put. Wonderful insight there. Yeah. Where are your clients coming from then, Kerry, would you say? Would you sort of move them to more of a business sort of take right now? You obviously got clients, you're engaging on a number of levels with the nutrition and hypnotherapy and stuff. Are you seeing certain trends in what people are bringing in terms of mental health or confidence or anxiety, these sorts of things?
I suppose so it's women. I generally tend to work with women entrepreneurs
Okay.
who are struggling with stress, anxiety, and I think probably everybody finds that is as you move through phases of life, you kind of, I think, tend to attract those clients for those, phases of life.
Yeah.
So I generally tend to work with people aged 35 and over up to 70, 75. I think possibly from the nutrition side is that's kind of the age where I think most people suddenly realize, oh, I'm actually not going to live forever. And yes, I do need to start doing something about my health, because I think in your 20s, you're kind of doing anything and everything. And you're, oh, I'll live forever. Everything
Yeah,
will be
yeah,
fine. I'll always be healthy.
yeah.
And then kind of when you start to get to your mid 30s, you kind of start to realize, I think that, you have to put steps in place for your health for the long term. So, that's generally what I'm seeing women entrepreneurs who are either having stress and anxiety or trauma that's come up that's impacting their lives,
Yeah, yeah.
and now kind of into the kind of peri-menopause, post-menopause,
Hmm.
which, trying to help people understand that it's not this big drama in life, that actually we're designed to sail through it. We're not designed to have this, oh my God, this is like the worst thing that ever happened to me moment. So,
You mentioned stress, anxiety. It's such a felt, excuse me, thing out there now, isn't there? There's so much going on in the world. I would imagine stress and anxiety are just one of the prevalent conditions now in
yeah,
society.
I think it stems from the fact of, we went through a period, and I think it probably is still a problem now, of what I just call busyness, of people feel that they always have to be busy. They always
Mm.
have to be doing something. It's not like you can phone someone and go, oh, can we meet tomorrow for a coffee? It's like, oh no, I'm really busy. I've got so much on, maybe in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah,
And I think that's it, is we start to fill up our lives with things that are maybe not as meaningful as they should be,
yeah,
and we miss out on kind of that connection of spending time in nature, going out on the weekends and doing things that you love rather than things that you feel that
yeah.
you have to do, and
That's
things
good.
that would like to do.
Yeah.
And I think particularly for me, I'm probably my own worst enemy when it comes to that, is relaxing. When I relax, I'm like, oh, I've got things to do. Why am I sitting here doing
I think we're
nothing?
all like that. Maybe it's guilt. We're doing
Yeah,
nothing.
that's it. And it's like, oh, I can't possibly just sit around and do
Yeah.
nothing. So I think it is that, and that's what creates kind of the stress, I think.
Would you approach a session like that as a coach, as a nutritionist, as a hypnotherapist? How would you deal with that? What are you predominantly?
So probably, I think now I'm just starting to incorporate everything together, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
most of my clients come to me through word of mouth because they know me and they've been referred to me, so they understand what I do. So I
Okay.
think they're kind of prepared on, how I'm going to address it. So it just depends. If they originally approach me for stress and anxiety, then I'd probably do a hypnotherapy session and then explain to them how their diet and what they're eating may be impacting their
Mm.
sleep, which then has a knock-on effect, and all of those things which just bring it all together. So,
Okay. So a lot of referral stuff, which I think is typical for therapists. Are you out there online, social media, Kerry, and engaging clients that way, finding business there?
I'm not so much in directly on social media. So I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with social
Tell me.
media. I do like Instagram, funny enough.
Okay.
But I find sometimes, and I know this is that, everyone says kind of like Facebook is your living room. You allow the people in that you want to allow in. But sometimes there's just like so much stuff on Facebook. So I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. But I generally, I got involved in kind of the business bundles. So they are, I'm sure we've all seen them, people who do, what would you call it, a summit as such.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got involved in those as a speaker. I've got involved in those as giving a free lead magnet or a free webinar. So I'm building my list that way,
Good.
kind of through collaboration.
Good.
And I do some speaking. And so it's just, for me, it's more the collaboration. But I think the social media side keeps you visible. And I think we unfortunately kind of live in a world where if you're not on social media, people don't think you exist. So they kind of go online to find you
Yeah.
and look you up and see what you do. And I think it does have more of an impact than we realize. I have friends who kind of live all around the world. I have clients all around the world. And then they'll message me and say, oh, I saw this post that you put on. So they're not commenting and engaging on the post directly, but they are still seeing that information.
Hmm.
So for me, I use it as a bit more of a educational tool of,
Okay.
these are the things that you can do in your life, kind of sharing those tools,
Yeah.
and not so much as a client engagement. But I'm working on maybe trying to get Instagram working that way. So
Okay.
we'll see how it goes.
So you've embraced it. I mean, that's where they say the world is hanging out, and
Yeah.
people are searching for these things. It's a bit of a mixed bag. You've got to be consistent, congruent. You've got to show up, do your thing. There's a lot of, I suppose, it's just a lot of scrolling. People just scroll by, don't they?
Yeah.
Massive helicopter going overhead now. Hope
I
you
can't
can't hear
hear
that.
it. You're fine.
There it is. So people can find it a bit hit and miss. The problem, Kerry, when people on social media is they're surrounded by all the other things, feeds, videos going off and
Yeah.
stuff. What I'm finding more effective for me is actually developing the YouTube channel because
Okay.
once
Yeah.
people are on YouTube, there's no other distractions. It's you.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah.
it's video consumption. People like that rather than just a static post. And in a way, you can build a bit more rapport when their attention is solely on you. You can talk about yourself more, comes across as a bit more authentic. I'm not being dogmatic on that. I just think that this year's what I'm focused on YouTube, and it,
Okay.
it seems to be engaging. I still do the social media stuff simply because I know people are out there, and sometimes we don't get the immediate comments and whatever, but. It's amazing how people are observing it because, if I'm out and
Yeah.
about, oh, I saw your post the other day about just letting your thinking settle. And in that time, an insight can come and think, you saw that? Why didn't you comment? Why didn't you comment? Why didn't you leave a like?
Yeah.
But it does go in. And then when people think about they might say, nutrition, and they think, "Oh, Kerry does nutrition. I'm sure I saw something she does."
Yeah.
And then they get in touch. So we don't know where the marketing goes sometimes. It would be nice if people instantly responded, book a session, whatever. But I think it all goes in there somewhere in the mix, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I think, I think about how I use social media and I don't always comment. I see things and I think, oh, that's really nice. I do try and comment more now because I'm aware that obviously everyone's in the same position I am, waiting for that comment and that
Yeah.
engagement. So I try to engage if I can, but I don't spend that much time on social media. So I do agree as you'll go through and you'll go, oh, that's really nice or that's really helpful. And in that moment, you may not have time to leave a comment because I think it's just being aware that everyone else is in the same place.
Mm.
We just think that, oh, it's me, everyone should be reading my stuff and, commenting and coming to me. But I think it's also relevant in how we use social media, is understanding that that's probably exactly the same way that others use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like the idea of YouTube because I think you're right. I think people who go onto YouTube are also looking to consume longer content for
Yeah.
the fact that they're going onto YouTube for a video.
Yeah. How
So they're
to, how to, yeah.
expecting,
Mm.
and I think especially for me, I find it quite hard to get my point across in as few words as possible. I tend to be more words than possible. So perhaps I'll take your advice and I should restart my YouTube channel.
Well, it's not difficult to do. I mean,
Yeah,
if you've got a Google account, you've already got a channel anyway. But it's thinking, right, what will I record today? But we're trying to encourage our therapists, don't be so over scripted. Just speak from the heart, be yourself, be
yeah,
authentic. And that's just being present and sharing from your experiences and the way you're seeing your therapy practice, engages people. The good thing about YouTube is that when people search on Google, YouTube results come up, of course. Facebook
okay.
post results don't come up.
Yes,
So that's
yeah,
that's why it's a very good way. So you're doing some engagement on social media. Word of mouth stuff's working. And obviously that's very important, getting good reviews, because ultimately it's like Amazon. When you go to Amazon, you look at a book, I was straight down, what do other people think of it? I know
yes,
maybe it's not the best way, but if 9 out of 10 people think a book is good, Care, I'm probably thinking I'd
yeah,
probably I'd probably like it as well. So the reviews are very important and stuff. A lot of therapists coming through month after month. I've noticed in hypnotherapy, there's a lot of trainers out there, and there are sort of
yeah.
certain waves. The next batch will be coming through. Again, we've already mentioned that they're not necessarily primed for either, okay, how do I market myself as a therapist? Do you have any insights or tips that you think from your experience now, okay, would help some of these, new therapists coming through get out there and engage with clients?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, when I started, obviously I was confident in my nutrition
Yeah.
and what I understood about that. The hypnotherapy, not so much. And I know people say you shouldn't do free and discounted sessions, and I get all of that. But I think you need to do what feels right for
That's
you.
good. Yeah.
So when I was still in my training, I started doing sessions and I was charging £10 a session. And I made it very clear to my clients. I said, I'm doing this. I'm still in training. I'm not qualified yet. This is how I can help you. I will do this. Will you leave me a review?
Cool.
So I got a lot of clients through the door that way. And apart from anything else, that gave me the confidence to go, actually, this works. I don't quite know how, but it does work.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think happened to me, which was, shall we say, scary at the time, but actually proved because so when I did my hypnosis training, and I think it's probably a little bit different now, but it was kind of like, oh, lie down in a darkened room and I'll, keep my tone quite low and gentle and
Yeah.
we'll take you into hypnosis. And I think it was my third or fourth client I had, I was working, I'd rented a room out of a business in the high street. And as I was taking my client into hypnosis, there was sirens, there was a fire truck and police and everything else. And I had that moment of panic. And then I was just
Mm.
like, and all of the outside noises will take you even further into hypnosis.
Utilization. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, and they when they at the end of the session, I said, oh, I'm really sorry about the sirens. They went, what sirens? I didn't hear anything. So I think for me it was
Wonderful.
kind of that panicky moment, but actually a good experience. And actually it doesn't really matter because you can use anything around you to take your clients into hypnosis. So that was a really good experience for me.
Good.
And I think possibly because I was still in the learning phase, I didn't panic about it. Had I been charging my clients what I charge now,
Mm.
off the bat, I would have been uncomfortable and maybe the panic would have been a bit higher and like, oh my goodness, this person's paying a lot of money to see me. I have to make sure it works. And we all know, from hypnosis, any kind of work you do, as soon as you leave that rational thinking of the prefrontal cortex and you go into the panic mode, kind of all your tools leave you.
Mm.
So for me, that worked really well. And then I got referrals through that.
Great.
And I was getting those clients. I was doing a lot of networking
Yeah.
at that stage, in-person networking, which then moved online. And then I found the online
Yeah.
kind of a bit tedious. And then I think people thought, oh, it's online, so we'll do 2 hours or 3 hours. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
no,
You've put in
that's
the time, clearly. You've showed up. You've invested a lot of energy, put yourself out there, and it's paid off, hasn't it? I think it's naive sometimes that I'm qualified now, they'll come to me. So
yeah.
you've got to do it's a business like any other. It's therapy, okay, it's compassion, heart-led, but it's still a business at the end of the day that I was like to say you're a businesswoman first and a therapist second.
Yeah, and I think I mean I've been very fortunate, I guess, in that where I've been in my business, I've always been lucky to be involved with people who are very business minded. So I've worked with quite a few mentors who were on the business side. And I think that's it, is realized actually, yes, I'm really good at what I do. I'm not, I mean, I say I'm not great at the business side. I did come from, as we all do, I came from a corporate world. I ran a completely different business before I got into this business. And actually, it was really interesting in how we, I think, do things that we don't realize because my grandfather ran his own business. My mum's mum, my grandmother ran her own business. My mum and dad had their own business. Yet I never ever saw myself as an entrepreneur or business owner, which is really strange. Sometimes we don't see what's right in
That's
front of
right.
us.
Yeah.
So I was kind of obviously always destined to not be told what to do by other people and do my own thing.
Destined. Do you think therapy is a long-term thing for you now? Everything you're doing, Kerry, do you think you could see yourself seeing out your days doing what you're doing now or adding to it
Yeah,
maybe?
absolutely. And I think that is the ideal thing of it. I think, it's ever changing. Nutrition is ever changing. I think there's so much out there to educate people. I think there's
Mm.
so much misinformation going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that people are educated about nutrition, about what they feeding themselves that
Yeah.
side of things. And I think the hypnotherapy will always evolve. It will always be there. Unfortunately, people will always have something that they need assistance with. And I
Mm.
think that's the thing, is it's not saying that people need fixing or they need someone else, but we all know you go through something. I mean, if I spoke about my business to you and what I'm doing, I'm pretty sure you'd go, oh, well, I'd do that. And what have you thought about doing that? And wouldn't you do that? And maybe you should try this. For example, the YouTube is, I know you and Kev speak about it. I know I probably should be doing it, but I haven't done it.
Should use the
And
word should.
I know, but you know what I mean.
I know what you
And
mean.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm like, actually, it's a really good modality to use
Mm.
is YouTube. So I think that's the thing, is when we talk about, and I'm not sure, I don't know that I like the word therapy as such. I think it has a lot of not so great connotations to
Possibly,
it.
yeah, yeah.
But if someone needs help, if they can't see the wood for the trees in their life, and someone can just point out something to them differently, and they can look at something differently and in a different way, they engage with everything in a different way and everything changes. So I think it's not always about, I always say to my clients, I'm just here to guide you and to help you find, you have the answers and the solutions. I'm just here to guide you, to help you
No,
find,
yeah,
those solutions that work best for you, rather
that's
than
right.
telling you what you have to do.
I love that. I think coaching historically has been very prescriptive. I know something that you don't know, and
Yeah.
you're one step ahead and you bring. But I'm finding really especially in the three principles. I don't know if you know the three principle stuff that
No.
we have innate health, well-being.
Yes.
It's just our thinking, Kerry, that takes us off center
Yeah.
sometimes. That's what gives us issues. But nobody has problems, issues per se. It's a matter of how we're interpreting the world around
Yes.
us that makes us
Yeah.
we think stressful thoughts, therefore
Yeah.
we're stressful. I mean, that's a completely different subject, but it's very insightful, some of the things you said, and that sort of dovetails into to sort of the closing of this is I would love to live in a healthy world. And I know governments like to think they're funding these sorts of things where these problems will disappear. There'll always be these sorts of issues, of course, which is good for a therapist or a practitioner because that means there's always business to be had. But
Yeah.
what are some of the big challenges you see? And I say that I'm kind of setting you up really with a lead question because I know we've both talked about big pharma
Yeah.
and the impact of the pharmaceutical industry. In some ways, I think people miss the point. It is a business model. It's not a charity. And the idea
Yeah.
is that if everyone was healed, then of course the model goes. Now, I don't
Yes.
want to be too sarcastic or cynical about it, but is this something you're coming up with, in your practice that's sort of headbutting against the natural holistic approach where it kind of comes up against people who just think, prescription over-the-counter drugs are the solution? I know it's a bit controversial. What's your
Yeah.
stance and all of that?
So I think my, shall we say, foray into nutrition and healing myself,
Mm,
I identified that that was the problem, is that, Western medicine, big pharma, is all about a sticking plaster. It's, you've got a sore toe, take a tablet. You've got a sore head, take a tablet. Or your blood pressure's a bit high, take another tablet, instead of going. And the crazy thing is the British Medical Journal actually states that nutrition is your first course of intervention. But most people just flip over that because
mm,
I mean, doctors go to school for 7 years. In 7 years, I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I know it used to be the case, is that they have half an hour of nutrition training in that 7 year medical degree.
good grief.
Now, something that I heard the other day, so I follow a vet because we were talking about Bovaer, which is a whole other discussion that we won't get into. But he said to me, if you took your dog or your cat or your pet to the vet, what is the first thing your vet asks you? What have they been eating? Yet your doctor never, ever asks you that.
No, that's true. No,
They're like, what's wrong? They look in their medical journal and go, oh, I'll give you a prescription for that.
yeah.
And so I think, I guess I've been fortunate in that because I went down and alternate route because I didn't want to be on medication because I didn't see the point. It was like, I get that you may need to take a medication. For me, it was, you need to take medication in a short term, do all the other things, correct the problem, and then you continue on. You don't just get on. And yes, and that's the definition, isn't it? Big pharma, as we say, is a perfect
Yeah.
business model because you get sick and they just keep prescribing you tablets. And unfortunately, on the other end of it, a lot of them are involved in the toxic chemicals that are sprayed on our food.
Mm.
I say to people, you look at someone spraying chemicals on food, they're dressed in a full-on hazmat suit because of those
That's a giveaway, isn't
chemicals.
it?
Yeah. And I think
Mm.
for some reason we kind of think, okay, well, oh no, those chemicals will never get to us, but they do. They sit on the plants, they go in the plants, and all of that is carried to us. I mean, I see crops, and I know farming and farmland is a whole other issue, but I see crops growing on the side of the road, and I think of all the pollution that's now affecting those crops, we're taking on board all of those. If you're, if you choose to be a meat eater and you're eating meat from animals that are not kept in very good condition, they injected with all sorts of chemicals, which is where kind of the whole Beauvais thing comes in. All of that is being passed on to us. So we have, I mean, I just look at it and I ask people just to be curious about things.
That's,
So we have had the biggest medical advances probably in the last 50 years, yet we are the sickest and the unhealthiest.
yeah, that's what does that mean? What conclusions can we draw from that?
That's
Mm.
it.
Yeah,
So, I see lots of people who have side effects from medication.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it is one of those things. And on the other hand of that, I will say that I've been very lucky in that clients I've worked with, I have written to their consultants, and oftentimes the consultant is open once they understand what I'm doing and how I'm working with them. So I've had a lot of clients who've been discharged from their medical care, for want of a better word, because they've resolved their symptoms by changing their diet and lifestyle. So, and I think that is it, is that there are so many functional medicine doctors or lifestyle medicine doctors, I think
Mm.
they call themselves, who were in the medical industry. And you have to then ask yourself, why are they not still in the medical industry? If that model was working so well, why are they now, moving
Yeah,
out of that model? Because they want their patients to get well. They don't want their patients to have, you know, continuous issues. We talked about, the weight loss
yeah,
drugs. And
yeah.
all that does is just create a client for a lifetime because as soon as you stop those drugs, they stop working. Whereas actually, if you addressed it through your diet and lifestyle and started doing a little bit of exercise, it makes them, a much bigger difference. And I understand, like with everything, it's
Hmm.
very individual and it depends what that person needs. But it is just looking at the bigger picture of
Yeah,
all of these things.
yeah. Very well explained. Yeah, it's kind of worries me. You just don't know who to trust out there. There's so many competing voices, for example, in social media, companies pushing supplements and this kind of care. But it's
Yeah.
a business model, isn't it? It's a business model. So
It is, and I think it's worrying when you say that about, people on social media. And I think that's what people don't realize is that a lot of people are being paid to promote the
exactly.
things that they promote. A
Yeah,
lot of athletes are being paid by processed and packaged companies
yeah,
about
mm,
energy drink companies. They're being paid by
mm,
those people to promote them.
yeah,
They don't necessarily use those products to get to where they've got as elite athletes, And I think one of the biggest things for me was I'm not a football fan in any shape or form, but I did watch an interview with Ronaldo,
oh,
and he was doing an interview. And they had cans of soda, and he very clearly moved them out the way and brought the bottles of water in
I
and put
remember that
those
on
in.
TV. Yeah,
Yeah. And I just thought, that's what we need is people like that who have a big following, who are going to go, actually, this is what you need. This other stuff is not actually helping you. It's, we all know that, all of those drinks are filled with all sorts of chemicals. You know, I see children who eating like a Mars bar and drinking one of these revolting energy drinks on the way to school, and then you're hyped up on caffeine and sugar. There's no way you're going to absorb and learn what you need to learn. So I think it's just encouraging people, I think, to be curious
Yeah.
and understanding why someone's promoting what they're promoting, where that's coming from. You know, I know some podcasters who are promoting supplements, and I found out that some of them are earning 40, $50,000 an episode
Well,
for
some of them are
promoting.
MLM schemes, aren't they? It's just plain and simple affiliate marketing schemes, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, so there are some companies who I think are genuinely out there, and they're using that model so that because they're not selling in the shop. So the aim is that they're educating
Yeah.
people to sell the products to people that they need. But again, you're looking at people, are you being sold something because that person has to meet their sales targets, or are they selling something that you genuinely need that's going to make a difference?
That's a good question.
So I think that's it. Is it's a lot of things are a one size fits all, and I think it happens in every industry. You know, from kind of I don't know cars to personal training to
Of course.
hypnotherapy. It's
Yeah,
like
of course.
this is my method. You'll follow it, and that's it. And
Yeah.
I just I encourage people to be curious and
I
ask.
love that. Encourage people to be curious. I think out of the health industry, we expect people to be not disingenuous because it's a shared human thing to be well, but
Yeah,
it's amazing, really, the mixed messaging out there. It's really hard to be informed, especially like diets. We've gone through so many phases of this diet is the one now.
yeah.
And then it's out of favor a year later. The books
Oh,
don't get read anymore, and then it's something else. Now, there probably is something in all of them, of course, but that's what I think for me. It just exposes how variable all of this really is. You can't be dogmatic on any of it, but
yeah, and that makes me laugh. Actually, I got an email yesterday because apparently now the Mediterranean diet is out, and we all have to eat like an East African diet. Apparently, that's the new
East
thing. So,
African diet,
yes.
I
So,
don't even know what that is. Oh, I don't know.
so
It's whatever works for us, really, I suppose, at the optimal level.
well,
Listen,
yeah, yeah, it is that, and it is asking the right questions, I think, and not following what someone says on social media and
yes,
finding someone who actually can work with you and and get to the bottom of it. And that's what we say is that's why you come to a qualified hypnotherapist to
yeah,
get the
yeah.
the help you need. It's the same thing with nutrition. I always say don't work with someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, who's just selling something for the sake of it. So yes.
Yeah. Influencers, I think they're called, aren't they?
Yeah, something along those
Yes,
lines.
indeed. Excellent. Well, this has been so insightful, Kerry. I do want to end with just if people want to get in touch with you, if something that you have said has resonated with them and they think, I like Kerry, yeah, I've got an issue with nutrition, whatever it is, how can people find out more about you, Kerry? Where can they go?
So yeah, the best way is through my website, or I'm on Instagram at KerryM212. So that's
212, what does that mean? 212, that sounds
just a date
something. Not your
something.
bank card number, I hope. It's
Yeah,
missing a digit.
that's my PIN number. No, no.
And the
So
website?
so my website is kerrymadgwick.co.uk.
That is Madgwick, Madgwick. Yeah.
Yes, and
If
Kerry
you're
K is
watching
on
this on
one.
YouTube, I will have the link on that, by the way.
Brilliant. Super.
Um,
Yeah. So
Now, am I allowed to say, Kerry, that I'm sort of privy to some course or some product or something you're going to be launching soon that will be beneficial to listeners, watchers?
yes, well, thanks to you and Kev and all your support. So, so developing my kind of signature program online,
Wow.
just being aware that, not everyone can afford kind of one-to-one personalized sessions. So it was just about developing that offering so that people can go through an online course and have access to me that way with everything that they need to take them from, if they're struggling with their health, with their mindset, to coming out the other side, being resilient. And so that's, we called it the resilient woman method for that reason, is that I want people to be resilient. I want them to be, kind of to take ownership of their health and to know that they're in control of their health and their mindset
Hmm.
so they can live the lives that they want to live and achieve the things that they, want to
Yeah.
achieve. So,
In control of their
yeah.
health, so they can make informed decisions about what what's right for them, not be at the mercy of sort of messaging out there, but understand for themselves.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah. So, and
good.
that's it. And I think it's making we always say it's making an informed choice of, yes, now I understand why someone's talking about that, or this is the latest craze. I don't need to get involved in it because I understand what works for me. I understand what makes me feel good. So, from the nutrition side, it's not, for want of a better word, prescriptive. There obviously are guidelines that work for everyone. But like we said, it's not the Mediterranean diet or this diet. I do kind of work on what I call, I hate things that are termed with, kind of all these phrases, but it's kind of works along your biological clock. So we call it chrononutrition. So it works on your
Mhm.
chronological clock, specifically for women, because that's one of my biggest bugbears at the moment is kind of all this fasting stuff that's out there. And yes, it works well for men, but it doesn't always work well for women. But yeah, I'm going off on a whole other tangent. So,
Oh, it's wonderful.
and
Yeah, it's been a real blast, Kerry, with you today. I've
yeah,
learned a lot of new things. It's always stimulating, as a therapist like you, just to hear of new approaches to things, to learn new things. It's always good to learn new things. And I know you had a post recently on Facebook about we should always be learning new things, and courses are always good to expand our experience and
yeah.
awareness of things. So great. That's been very helpful. I wish you success with your product launch and, of course, with
Thank
all your
you.
client work. It sounds wonderful, compassionate, caring person. And, I really hope you can make this last as long as you desire and it creates a lifestyle because it's about that. It's not just making a living, and
Yeah.
unashamedly, we can get an exchange in financial terms for all that we've put into our care and our therapy. So good on you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Well, and I hope people come and explore the Therapy Business Club because I think that's it. It has been an amazing resource, and I know it is for so many people because there's not that many resources available out there that are. I think people are always trying to sell their system, whereas that's what I really like about what you and Kev do is the same thing. It's not. It's prescriptive, but you do what works for you within this framework, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I really like that. It's like, give this a try. If it doesn't work for you, maybe there are things you need to tweak, or maybe you need to be doing and focusing on something else. And that's what I really like about the Therapy Business Club
awesome.
and what you offer. So I definitely encourage everyone to come and join. Well, at least give you a look, but definitely join if you need any
Yeah,
help with
yeah.
your business
Well,
and marketing. It's definitely worth it. So
great. Dear viewer, listener, I couldn't have asked for a better lead in to tell you go to therapybusinessclub.com. You can see everything that Kev, myself, and a whole wonderful community of magical people are doing to help people transform their lives. Better you is a better world, I always say. So we
yeah.
have products, we have resources, we have weekly meetings online. It's a fabulous community. You can get questions answered, how to's, such as how do I use social media, how do I use YouTube, how do I use Canva, all these tools that will help you get out into the marketplace to help the clients that you feel you can best work with. So that's therapybusinessclub.com. I think that's it for today, Kerry. I think it's actually been a long session today, which is just great. We've just gone on, we've spoken from the heart. As I said, I've learned a lot, and I know anyone watching and listening to this would have been very well informed and instantly engaged with your passion for what you do, Kerry. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the leeway to go off and, step on my podium and then back off it again.
It's been a
So
blast. It's been a
good.
blast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant.
That's it for this episode. If you can join us for the next episode, please do so. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like, leave a comment. It all helps us in the algorithm, which is the god of marketing these days. Thank you for your time today. We'll see you on the next episode of the Therapy Business Club podcast. Bye bye.